Tell Mama you're making the pie this year. It's delicious, it's crunchy, it's crispy. Listen to that. Hey everybody, I'm Chef Chris. Welcome to the Lodge Kitchen. Today we're gonna be making November's recipe of the month. This is the most epic pecan pie you've ever seen in a cast iron pie pan. This thing is gonna be unbelievable. I can't wait for you guys to see how easy it is and how awesome it's gonna look at your table. So to start our recipe, we're gonna use all-purpose flour, and I'm gonna put that in a fairly large bowl. And then we've got salt and sugar. That's gonna go in, and I'm just gonna take a whisk and incorporate that nice and evenly. So we have ice cold butter. This has been in the freezer for like over an hour at this point, and we're gonna use a box grater, and what that's gonna do is evenly distribute my butter in my flour, and that's gonna make for a super flaky crust. But one tip that I have to share with you guys, I just learned this, you take the butter and drop it into your bowl. What that's gonna do is make sure your fingers don't get all sticky. You can hear that sound, that's that frozen butter getting grated, and you can see that I don't have much on my hands because of that awesome flour trick. I'm just gonna take this mound of butter, and that's gonna go straight into my all-purpose flour with that salt and sugar. Once we get this really nicely incorporated into our flour, we're gonna add ice cold water. And I'm gonna make a well in the middle of this. We're just gonna add a little bit of water at a time. We're just gonna fold that in on itself. And I'm just trying to get that to come together. All right, so right now I'm just pressing this in, and I'm taking kind of the parts that are dry, and I'm just incorporating those in to my pie dough. I'm trying to do that quickly so that I'm not warming up my dough too much. I'm gonna take a little bit of flour and sprinkle it on my cutting board. Just gonna toss that dough out. And we're just gonna shape this quickly into a disc. I'm actually gonna cut out a third of it. And usually for this pie dough recipe, I turn this into my lattice work or the top of the pie. All we wanna do is just roughly shape that into a disc. So we're gonna wrap it in plastic wrap, and we're just gonna make sure that that doesn't dry out. This is gonna go into my refrigerator for an hour, or it's gonna go into my freezer if I'm in a hurry for 30 minutes. And I wanna get that butter nice and cold again. So an hour has passed. It's been in the refrigerator, maybe a little longer than that, and it's nice and firm. So what I'm gonna do is open this up. I'm gonna sprinkle my cutting board with flour, and we are just going to roll out our dough. And I'm gonna roll away from myself, and I'll do little turns as I go. And that just helps me to maintain a good even thickness. If I start to get out of round, I can kind of just push it back into place, but I'm not really that concerned about it because a lot of it is gonna hang over, and we're gonna trim that off. All right, so I'm starting to feel this stick. So all I'm gonna do is add a little bit more flour, and I'm just trying to make sure that I don't tear my dough. Now, I'm gonna roll this up. Boom. All right, so I'm gonna make sure I overhang that a little bit. I'm gonna roll it out. Look at that. Now I don't wanna push here, okay? So what I wanna do is take the outside and kind of just nest it in, because I'm not trying to stretch this pie crust out. I'm trying to let gravity do its thing, work its way into the corners of my pie crust, or the side walls of my pie plate. Now the only thing to do is we're gonna cut off the edges, and then we're going to crimp the pie. I've got a handy dandy set of kitchen shears here, but any scissors would work. And what I'm gonna do is leave about a ½ inch around the pie, because I'm gonna tuck that under, and that's just gonna add extra pie dough for me just to make pretty crimping with. That looks pretty good to me. I mean, at this point, you bake it like this. We're just gonna try to make it look pretty. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna roll this under and go all the way around, and then I'll work my way back to crimping. So I've tucked that pie crust up under, and I'm gonna take my index finger and my thumb and my other thumb, and we're gonna just crimp that pie dough in. I'll show you what I'm talking about. All right, this is a pretty easy technique to do. We'll go back around and fix everything. This is one of the faster ways to crimp your pie dough. And I always like to keep my hands in the same position. It's tough if you try to go around, so make the pie pan work for you. We're almost done, but then I'm gonna go back over it, do a couple things real quick. It's hanging up a lot, and I don't want that to happen because it can brown a little quickly more than I want to. So I'm just gonna tap it back down a little bit, and then I'm gonna go back over it one more quick time. I'm just gonna pinch and make these peaks just a little more defined. So look at this beautifully crimped pie crust. We're gonna chill this one more time for 20 minutes. We want that butter to be nice and cold so that when it goes into the oven, we can make a flaky pie crust. While we let that rest in the refrigerator, we're gonna build our pie filling. So let's do it. We're gonna start with a cast iron skillet. We're gonna toast our pecans. So I'm gonna rock that skillet over low burner, and I'm gonna add in, we've got 3 cups of pecans in this recipe. This is gonna happen pretty quickly. I don't wanna over toast my pecans here. 2 to 3 minutes on a low flame. And all I'm doing is I'm just toasting them lightly, and I'm bringing out that nutty aroma and just those deeper flavors. It's just gonna make your pecan pie the best pecan pie that it can be. All right, so our pecans have toasted nicely. I'm just gonna put those back into the bowl that they started in. What that also did is it preheated my skillet a little bit before we start mixing our ingredients for our topping. So this is gonna go right back over a low flame, and we are going to add our granulated sugar and our corn syrup. And I'm going to let this work until most of my sugar has dissolved. And that is gonna make sure we don't have a gritty filling. I'm gonna let that work for just a second, and I am going to add some vanilla extract to that. Our sugar is dissolving really nicely, basically liquid at this point. So I'm going to now add, we've got 1 stick of butter. We're just gonna add this in, and it's going to melt, and we'll start to incorporate that in. But then we're gonna pull it off the heat because we don't wanna cook the eggs. We're going to temper those eggs in our skillet nice and slowly. Look at that butter already melted. This is just warm to the touch. So I'm gonna pull that off this burner. We're gonna let it come down a little bit because I don't want to cook my eggs. We're using 4 egg yolks for this. I like to use the egg yolks. It just makes for a richer consistency, but I wanna make sure that the sugar and butter mixture doesn't cook those eggs. So we're probably gonna let this sit for 3, 4, maybe even 5 minutes. Just that cast iron stays nice and hot like we love. I've had this off the burner for about 5 minutes. It has come down dramatically in temperature. I'm still not just gonna dump my eggs in. I am gonna give those just a really quick whisk. And we're gonna temper these in, which means we're gonna pour them in very slowly so that they don't cook while I stir them up and incorporate them really nicely into this sugar mixture. We just don't want to see any clumps in this. Give that one more quick stir, make sure everything's nice and incorporated. And then we have our toasted pecans over here. And we're just gonna hammer those right into the middle. Add everybody in and give them a knock around. So we're just gonna fold that in and make sure everybody's just nice and coated. We're almost done. This is almost about to just make my house smell like pie for an hour before we can eat pie. Now I'm just gonna grab the pie dough out of the fridge. We're gonna pour it in and bake it off. It's gonna be amazing. So my pie dough, nice and firm again. What I'm gonna try not to do is dribble onto the exterior crust of the pie. So I want that just to hit the center of my pie. All right, so I'm just gonna smooth that out. And if I see spots where I feel like the pecans are piled up in one spot, I can move them around, but I think we did a pretty good job. Wow, that is one epic pie. This is gonna go in the oven for 1 hour. Our pie has been in the oven for almost an hour at this point. I'm gonna check it, but when we take it out, we're gonna rest it on a rack so that we can just have that airflow and make sure it cools down nice and evenly. Goodness gracious, look at that pie. That is a work of art. Now our pie is gonna rest. We've got to let this thing come back to room temperature because if I cut into it right now, it's just gonna run all over the place. And it's gonna take several hours for that to happen. So we'll be back in a little bit to cut into this pie and have some delicious dessert.
1 eternity later.
Hey everybody, it's been several hours and our pie is just unbelievably beautiful. Look how amazing this thing looks. My pie plate's still a little bit warm, but our pie has definitely cooled down to the point that we could cut it. I do want to show you one thing because this pie pan is so awesome. Our crust is set beautifully, and I just want to show you this because I think it's really cool. Look at that crust. You can lift that pie right out of there, and that beautifully golden brown crust, that is something that you could brag about to all your friends and family. We're gonna slice into this bad boy and take a bite. That crust, you can just hear how amazingly flaky it is. I would normally just fly that straight into my mouth, but since we're on camera, I'm gonna use a plate. Oh my goodness. Look at you. Did you know you were gonna be on camera today? Did you know that? Look how amazing this is. This is the most beautiful pie I've ever seen. It's oozing out the side. It is crispy, it's crunchy. It's got that amazing crust, the beautiful crunch on those toasted pecans. I gotta take a bite. We've got a no fork emergency. It's okay. I'm a Boy Scout. This is the most amazing pecan pie I've ever had. Hope you guys try this at home. This is our November recipe of the month. Think about how just amazing it's gonna be at your Thanksgiving table. It's definitely gonna bring the family together and they can talk about something like pie and not football. Nothing else to do but eat some more pie. Love you, bye. We're gonna be making pecan pie in our cast iron pie plate. Y'all ready for pie? What did the nut say to the knife? Pecan someone your own size. That's a bad joke.